Welcome to yarnspirations.com. Let's take a look at the rib check knit super scarf worked up in Bernat Wool-Up Bulky. I have a scarf in progress right here, and you can see that it has a ribbed accent and some garter stitch sections. But what makes it checks is that you work in groups of 6 rows, and every 6 rows you change the direction that the pattern is facing. So at the end of the day, you're basically knitting 2 rows over and over and over again. It's the order in which you knit them that makes this beautiful pattern. So let's take a look real quick at the pattern. For those of you who like charts, we have a chart. And for those of you who prefer text, we have that as well. So I would have cast on 23 stitches, and then my first row begins with knit 3, and then it's purl 1, knit 3 all the way across. So purl 1, there we go, knit 3. Now clearly I have done a little bit of work on this scarf already, but you would knit the same way even if you were knitting off the cast on. So all the way across, knit 3, purl 1. And it's going to end with the knit 3. Now the next row is knit 1, and then purl 1, knit 3 all the way across until there's 2 stitches left. So purl 1, knit 3, all the way across. One of the great things about these super scarves and this super thick yarn on these big fat needles is the scarves work up very quickly. So we've gone purl 1, knit 3 until there are 2 stitches left. Here they are, purl 1, knit 1. So that was rows 1 and 2 of the pattern. For rows 3, 4, 5, and 6, we're going to repeat rows 1 and 2 twice more. So I've gone ahead and done that. Rows that I just showed you were the last repeat. So now I'm going to move to the second half of the stitch pattern, which begins with row 7. For row 7, we're going to knit 1, purl 1, knit 3 all the way across until the last 2 stitches, then purl 1, knit 1. Does that sound familiar? It's the row we just made. But by working it on the opposite side of the row we just made, that's what makes the checkerboards flip over. So purl 1, knit 3 all the way across until 2 stitches remain. And this is row 7 in your pattern. All the way across until 2 stitches remain. 2, 3, and then purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1. Now, moving on to row 8, it begins with knit 3 and then is purl 1, knit 3 all the way across, which you may notice is the same as row 1 was. But again, if you work this in groups of 6 rows, is how you get this pattern. So we're going to knit 3 and then purl 1, knit 3 all the way across for row 8, and then rows 9, 10, and 11, and 12, we're going to repeat rows 7 and 8 twice more. Now, if you're going to work on the scarf and then put it down to walk away and live your life or answer the phone or whatever, I highly recommend putting it down after you've done a group of 6 rows, because it can be a little fiddly to figure out where you're going if you put it down in the middle of that chunk of 6. All right, so we have gone purl 1, we started with a knit 3, and then we've gone purl 1, knit 3 all the way across. So this is the end of row 8. And then 9, 10, 11, 12 are rows 7 and 8 twice more. Now, if you look closely at this stitch pattern, another way to tell where you are in the pattern is by checking these vertical columns of what looks like stockinette stitch. You can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. If I came back, if I put the work down and came back here, for example, and I don't see 6 in that column, I know that I need to go ahead and repeat the rows that I had already been working on. So this is the stitch pattern, and we're going to move forward a little bit, and I'm going to show you how to put on this luscious fringe, which I have at the end of the scarf. Now, our pattern tells us to cut lengths of yarn that are 24 inches long to use to fringe both short ends of the scarf. The fastest way to do this is to cut a piece of cardboard that is 12 inches long. This one's a little bit shorter because I couldn't quite get 12 inches on camera, but if you cut one that is 12 inches long, hold your yarn at the bottom, and then just wrap your yarn around and around and around as many times as you need to get the number of pieces of fringe that you want. And then cut off your working yarn, and then put your scissors right there at the bottom of the piece of cardboard and cut. And this gives you all the fringe pieces that you need. So to put my fringe on, the next thing it tells me is to take 2 strands at a time and put them on evenly spaced across the bottom of the scarf. So what I chose to do was essentially go every other stitch, but there's no reason you couldn't go every stitch if you like a lot of fringe. So in this case, what I had done, see, I'm seeing my little columns, and then I'm seeing my group of 3 stitches and then a column. So when I fringed my way across, I put 2 strands in a column, and then 2 strands in the middle of the group of 3, 2 strands in the column, etc. So for me, the way I'm doing it, my next group is going to be in the middle of the group of 3. So I'm going to take my 2 strands of yarn and fold them in half. I want them pretty close to centered. I'm going to decide where I'm going to put the fringe, and I'm going to use a big fat crochet hook. The gauge doesn't matter. The crochet hook is being used as a tool. It doesn't have anything to do with how the fringe is attached. So I pulled it through, and then this yarn is so super thick, I'm actually going to get rid of the crochet hook. I'm going to spread out that loop, I'm going to pull all the strands through, and I'm going to make sure they're relatively close to even at the end. Close enough is close enough, because when I'm done, I can trim off anything that's straggly, and then I'm going to pull that knot tight. So I'm going to keep going all the way across, get my crochet hook. This time I'm going to a column, fold my 2 strands in half, pull them through. Now you want to make sure you get them under a couple of strands of yarn, not just one, because if you put it just under one strand, then it's not as sturdy. Going to make sure my ends are pretty close together. I'm going to reach through and pull them, and then knot it up tight. And then I wanted to make sure I had one on either end. So my last one's going to go on the end. Now another thing I did when I was casting on, I left a pretty long tail at the beginning of my cast on. And the reason I did that is I can hide this in the fringe, and then I won't have to weave it in. And if you're anything like me, you don't like to weave in ends. I certainly don't. So I'm going to the very last bit. I'm going to insert my crochet hook, pull the 2 strands through. Now in this one spot, I'm going to grab not only the strands of yarn, but I'm also going to grab that tail that was from the very beginning of the long tail cast on and knot everything else tight. So now I have my fringe all the way across. And one thing I wanted to point out about this stitch pattern that I didn't mention earlier is that it's 100% reversible. It looks just as awesome on one side as it does on the other. And I particularly like that for scarves, because depending on how you wear the scarf, of course, the flip side might be showing. So thanks for joining us on this tutorial about the rib check knit super scarf. Thank you so much for joining us here at yarnspirations.com, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.